The soft hum of fluorescent lights buzzed above as Ethan entered the rehearsal room the following day, clutching a new stack of sheet music under his arm. His nerves felt frayed. Collaborating with Lucas was supposed to be straightforward. He'd prepared a structured piece they could rehearse and polish. But the music they'd stumbled upon yesterday lingered in his mind. The rough beauty of Lucas's guitar didn't fit his usual standards, yet it stirred something unfamiliar, something dangerously exciting. He shook the thought away as he sat up at the piano. Ethan prided himself on precision and professionalism, and he wasn't going to let the messiness of yesterday derail the process. The door swung open with a loud creak, and in walked Lucas, as casual as ever. His hair was a bit tousled, and he wore the same smirk that both irritated and unsettled Ethan. He had his guitar slung over his shoulder, and as he walked in, he gave Ethan a lazy wave. "Good morning, Maestro." Ethan didn't bother to respond. "We have a lot to cover today," he said, placing the new sheet music in front of him. "If we want this to sound polished by the end of the week, we need to stick to the plan." Lucas raised an eyebrow and plopped down on a chair, slouching back comfortably. "Ah, plans. Always with the plans. What happened to having a little fun with it?" Ethan ignored the comment, straightening his music stand. "Let's start from the top. Follow the sheet music exactly this time, okay? No surprises." Lucas chuckled, but he tuned his guitar without complaint. "All right, Maestro. Your wish is my command." They started the rehearsal, Ethan's fingers gliding effortlessly over the piano keys, filling the room with a graceful, flowing melody. Lucas joined in a moment later, and for the first few minutes it seemed like things were working. His guitar followed Ethan's structure, staying within the lines of what was written. But before long, Lucas's natural instinct for improvisation began to take over. His guitar strayed off the sheet, throwing in unexpected notes and flourishes. Ethan faltered, his hands freezing mid-note. "Lucas," he snapped, irritation flaring. "We're supposed to follow the arrangement." Lucas leaned back with a grin, plucking a few playful notes. "Come on, Ethan. It sounded good, didn't it?" "That's not the point," Ethan said, trying to keep his frustration in check. "The music only works if we stay on track. It's about structure." "Music isn't a math problem," Lucas shot back, sitting up straighter now. "It's supposed to feel alive. If we play it exactly the same every time, what's the point?" Ethan rubbed his temple, feeling his control slip. "The point is to perform something meaningful, something refined." "And I'm saying it can be meaningful and spontaneous," Lucas argued. "Why does everything have to be perfect all the time?" Ethan's patience snapped. "Because if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing." Lucas blinked, caught off guard by the intensity in Ethan's voice. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the faint hum of the lights. "Wow," Lucas said softly, his teasing smile fading. "Is that what you really think, or what someone told you to believe?" Ethan stiffened, the question hitting a little too close to home. He wasn't used to anyone questioning the way he lived his life, especially not someone like Lucas. "It doesn't matter. Can we just focus?" Lucas studied him for a moment, as if seeing through the polished surface Ethan tried so hard to maintain. But instead of pushing further, he simply nodded. "All right, Maestro, let's run it again." They started over, but the tension between them was palpable. Ethan played with a sharp precision that made the music feel stiff, while Lucas struggled to keep his natural instincts in check. It was like they were pulling in opposite directions, two forces refusing to meet in the middle. After a frustrating hour, Ethan finally stood, running a hand through his hair. "This isn't working," he muttered. Lucas set his guitar down gently and leaned back against the wall. "You think?" Ethan shot him a look, but before he could say anything, Lucas grabbed his guitar again. "All right," Lucas said quietly, his tone more serious this time. "No more fighting, just listen to this." Without waiting for permission, Lucas began to play. His fingers moved smoothly over the strings, and the melody that emerged was raw, soulful, and completely different from anything Ethan had expected. It wasn't loud or flashy, it was quiet, almost fragile, with an undercurrent of emotion that caught Ethan off guard. Ethan stood frozen, listening as the music filled the room. There was something vulnerable in the way Lucas played, as if every note carried a piece of his heart. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time, Ethan found himself captivated by the beauty in the imperfection. When Lucas finished, the last notes hanging in the air, he looked up at Ethan. "See? Sometimes it's not about playing it right. It's about playing what feels right. Ethan swallowed, unsure how to respond. A part of him wanted to dismiss it, to say that feelings had no place in music. But another part of him, the part he usually kept buried, felt something stir. Something he didn't quite understand. He sat back down at the piano, placing his fingers on the keys. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's try it again. This time, let's see if we can meet in the middle." Lucas smiled, and together, they began to play. Ethan stuck to the structure at first, but as the music unfolded, he allowed himself to loosen up just a little, letting Lucas's guitar guide him into new territory. The two melodies, once at odds, began to intertwine in unexpected ways. Ethan's precise piano playing softened, making room for Lucas's wild, unpredictable chords. And Lucas, in turn, found moments of restraint, holding back just enough to let Ethan's melody shine. For the first time, their music wasn't a battle, it was a conversation. When they finished, Ethan sat back, breathless. The piece wasn't perfect. There were rough spots, moments where they fumbled to find each other. But it felt alive in a way that Ethan had never experienced before. Lucas leaned over the piano, grinning. "Not bad, maestro. Not bad at all." Ethan huffed, trying to hide the small smile tugging at his lips. "It's a start." Lucas chuckled, slinging his guitar over his shoulder. "Told you. You might just learn something from me." Ethan rolled his eyes, but for once, there was no edge to it. He wasn't ready to admit it out loud, but working with Lucas was starting to change the way he saw music, and maybe even the way he saw the world. As Lucas packed up his guitar, he glanced back at Ethan with a playful glint in his eye. "Hey Ethan, ever been to a real gig?" Ethan blinked. "What?" "There's an underground show tomorrow night," Lucas said. "You should come. You might even have fun." Ethan hesitated. The idea of stepping outside his carefully controlled world was terrifying. But something about Lucas's energy, his unpredictability, was starting to feel less like a threat and more like a challenge. Maybe, Ethan said finally, trying not to sound too eager. Lucas grinned. "I'll take that as a yes." As Lucas left the room, Ethan stared at the piano, his thoughts swirling. For the first time in a long while, he felt something unexpected excitement. The music between them wasn't perfect, but maybe that was the point.